Hello, my name is Freeborn Goodluck Otuya.
My name is Gabriel Stanley Chukwukalibia.
Welcome to Studysmart, where you learn faster and retain more.
Welcome to Studysmart, where learning meets ease.
Please like, share, subscribe, and comment. Study smarter
and not harder.
Welcome to a wonderful episode of Studysmart. Here we want to talk about organization of living things. Organization of living things is just talking about the hierarchy. How living things start from scratch to the very top. Now, before the world seems to look like what it is today, the world was without form and void. That means there was nothing on earth until some reactions, some micro reactions contributed to the reaction between molecules that forms biomolecules. These biomolecules, as time goes on, evolves and forms into different forms of organisms. Today we have different classes of kingdom animals. We have the chodates, we have the nematodes, we have the planarias, and so on and so forth. So we want to talk about how this organization of living things started. It started from the concept of an atom. What is an atom? An atom is the smallest particle of an element which can react in any chemical reaction. That means the atom still has the capacity and the components of the elements. These atoms are the building blocks of elements. They are the building blocks of life. And what are atoms made up of? Until recent years, about 200 to 300 years ago, scientists discovered that the atom is not just the smallest because it has subparticles. That was what happened to the multiplication of Dalton's theory, Dalton's atomic theory. So the subatomic particles of an atom are as follows. One, we have the proton. Two, we have the neutron. Three, we have the electron. Due to further research and studies on an atom, it was discovered that the atom has what is called a dense nucleus, and this dense nucleus is comprises of the proton and the neutron. And orbiting around this dense nucleus is the electron. Now, different atoms have different components of or numbers of electrons. Electrons can be in shells, can also be in subshells. Electrons spin in opposite directions. Electron follows and orbit fields follow different principles from different scientists, estimate principle of uncertainty, and then root through, and so on and so forth. So, from the discovery of the subparticle of protons, we discovered that scientists discovered that electrons are way lighter than protons. Electrons are about 1,840 times lesser than the mass of protons, and it has a negative charge, same as proton has a positive charge, while neutron does not have a charge. So this, for the mass, let's label them mass and charge. For proton has the mass of 1, neutron has the mass of 1, electron has the mass of 1,840. For the charge, it has positively charged, it is neutral, and it has a negatively charged. So what it means is that you talk about atomic numbers and atomic masses of an atom. But in respect to this lecture, we'll be talking about atoms regarding to organizations of living things. Now, when one or two atoms form and react together, they form something called a molecule. So when atom 1 plus atom 2 react, they form what is called a molecule. So this is an atom, this is another atom. Together, they form a molecule. And molecules, from what we want to study today, we'll be talking about a particular type of molecule called biomolecule. In your primary biology classes, you must have learned that bio means life. So we're talking about the molecules that resulted to organizations of life in summary. So molecules, these biomolecules can be as a nucleic acids, which is your DNA strand, can be as proteins. Proteins, you have proteinous substances, proteinous cells in your body, like your blood cells, like many other cells are proteinous in your body. We have biomolecules. Biomolecules are also called large molecules because they are molecules required for the production or for the evolution of life. So we have carbohydrates, and we have lipids. These four biomolecules are largely responsible for both the catabolism, both metabolism, and everything that has to do with the organization of life. As we continue our studies, we will learn how these four biomolecules are responsible for the organization of life. So let's talk about how the reaction of these biomolecules form cells. Now, when these biomolecules react by a favorable condition, environmental condition, it can be environmental condition from temperature, from pH, and so on. So these molecules react and form what is called a cell. And what is a cell? A cell is the basic, is the fundamental unit of life. Life started from cell. So all multicellular organisms today started from a unicellular organism. Example of a unicellular organism: 1, amoeba; 2, paramecium. So these are unicellular organisms, and these unicellular organisms still partake in almost all forms or all characteristics of living things. As we all know, living things have different characteristics, which we'll be talking in the next episode. But in some way, living things can reproduce, they can feed, they can respond to stimuli, and so on. So these unicellular organisms can also partake in these characteristics of living things. So going straight to multicellular organisms like monkeys, like plants, like higher plants, these are multicellular organisms. And in their multicellular bodies, they have different cells that come together to form tissues. These tissues come together to form organs. These organs come together to form a system and altogether form a multicellular organism. Now, how can cell be classified? Cell can be classified based on the structure. Now, based on their structure, how can cell be classified? Cell can be classified based on the structure. 1, cell can be classified as eukaryotic cells, prokaryotic cells. So these two are under classification of cells based on structure. Now, when do you say a cell is eukaryotic? A cell can be eukaryotic when it has a true membrane covering its nucleus, or its organelles have a membrane that is covering the organelles. Now, in a cell, we have different organelles, which we'll talk in our next episode. We'll talk about the next episode also. So just follow up for more. As the episode comes, we'll unfold real things about life sciences. So, for the eukaryotic cells, they have two nuclear membranes and they have two organelle membranes. But for the prokaryotic cells, it doesn't happen. They don't have two nuclear membrane or two organelle membrane. So we have different kingdoms as well. We have 5 major kingdoms. We have the kingdom Minera, we have kingdom Protista, kingdom Fungi, kingdom Plants. I said Plantae, kingdom Animalia. So these are the major kingdoms. Now, among these major kingdoms, the first kingdom, Monera, is a prokaryotic kingdom. Because all organisms in this kingdom does not have a true membrane in organelles. All other forms of kingdoms or types of kingdoms are eukaryotic. They have eukaryotic cells. So under the classification based on structure, we can talk about eukaryotic cells and prokaryotic cells. Now, based on their functions. Now we've talked about based on their structure. Now let's talk about based on their functions. Now when we talk about the functions of a cell, we have different cells and how they function. We have cells that functions in the gonad, the stem cells, which carries the chromosomes responsible for replication, passing out vital information from parent to offspring. We have other kind of cells like circulatory cells, which are connective cells. We have connective cells include the white blood cells, the monocyte, the basophils, the eosinophils, and so on. So based on the function of the cell, it talks about the duty of the cell in the organism. We can talk about the rod cells in your eyes, which transmits light receptors into images in the brain, from the retina to the brain, and produces clearer images. We also have different cells and their functions. We have the nerve cells that transfer electric impulses from the point at which it receives a stimuli to the brain and back to the point at which it also receives the stimuli. So we also have a nephron, which is called the unit cell in the kidney. The nephron is responsible for excretion, for exchange of different materials, the vital and both vital materials and the ones that are not important. They are able for circulating liquids. The liquids involve urea, also materials like glucose, amino acids. These materials we also have salts, different kind of salts in the kidney to be excreted. Now, most of these materials can be filtrated back or filtered back into the body because they are useful, like the glucose and the amino acids will be taken back to the body. But the unit in respect of mission of life and functions or classification of cells based on functions, the nephron is responsible to take these fluids, these materials, vital materials in and out of the body by a process called excretion. Now, classification of cells based on their origin. Based on their origin, we have two major classifications. We have the stem classification. Now, what is it? The word stem in life sciences talks about the home of reproduction, the home of division, where something can be reproduced. We call it undifferentiated cells. These are called undifferentiated cells. What do? They can break down to form different cells. For example, your bones are formed in, or let's say your red blood cells are formed in the red bone marrow, and they are formed in the bones. So we have stem cells that break down to form your red blood cells. These red blood cells will later be transferred to your heart for circulation, either pulmonary circulation or systematic circulation. So we have stem cells which are called undifferentiated cells and differentiated cells. These are the two classes of cells based on origin. Stem and differentiated. Stem is also differentiated, undifferentiated, and the next one is differentiated. So we also have other classifications of cells, which include the somatic cells and the germ cells. Now, what are the somatic cells? The somatic cells are cells that are not included for reproduction. So all other cells in the body that is not included in reproduction are called the somatic cells. Why? The cells that are included or responsible for reproduction are called the germ cells. Germ cells can also be called sex cells. So these are the classification of cells in life sciences. We have other more classifications, but these are the basic classifications you need for your exams and for your interviews and so on. Thank you very much for this episode of Studysmart. Hope you'll be there for our next episode. Subscribe, share this video if you love it, and support the work. Thank you very much.